Hey there, today I want to talk to you about something to keep in mind if you're going to be using Python with the Marketo API, and that's that almost every call you make to the Marketo API is going to be a success, even if it's a failure. So let me show you what I mean here. So I have a script here, and I have a try block, and that's something that you would use in Python if you want to monitor for errors and then handle them instead of just having the job fail and stop. You can use a try block and try to handle it that way. So if we put our script inside of here, in most cases the try block will never run because there's never going to be an error in Python. But we'll get some information in the JSON that'll tell us that the job failed. So let me show you what I mean with an example, and then I'll get into a little bit of how I have this set up. So in here, I'm making this call here to an endpoint that doesn't exist. There is no endpoint with Marketo Sky in it, but I'm just going to run this and see what we get. So I'm going to run, and I'll see that the job was actually, we received a 200 response, which means there's not a failure there. We got a response, but that the success is false. So this is something that we need to be able to handle, and then we get our code of 610, and the message is requested resources not found because there is no endpoint of Marketo Sky. So this is something that we need to handle within the script itself before proceeding, because we want to make sure that if there's ever an endpoint that we call that isn't a success, we want to make sure that we make note of it. And there's a couple ways you can do it. I'm just going to show you one way. You could also create a text file where you log any failures to so that you can review them after the script runs. So there's a couple ways to do it. I'm just going to show you a very basic way. So as we go down here, I'm still using my try block just in case there's any other errors that come up, even though I know this will very rarely run. I want to have it in there. And then I have some variables up here that are success equals false and warnings equals false. So when I make the call, I'm setting the success variable based on this success key right here. I'll show you in a little bit. When it's successful, it'll change to true, and that'll change the success variable to true. Then I have under here warnings, and I'm just looking at the length, because if there is a warning, it's going to come in a list, and I just want to see if the size of that list is greater than 1. And if it is, I'm going to set it to true. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave it as false. So then what we're looking for in a truly successful call is if success equals true with the double equal signs here, and warnings equal false. So that means the success is true, there are no warnings. Then we want to proceed with actually getting the result of the call, which is going to have the JSON for the information that you want, such as name, ID, created at, link, those types of things. However, if the success equals false, the first things I want to look for is to see if the token has expired, which is code 602. And if so, I want to call the get token endpoint again, get a new token, and continue on with the calls, which is a helpful thing to do if you're going to be making calls that'll be over an hour in length. So if you're going through 15,000 emails, you're probably going to hit that 1 hour time limit. Otherwise, I'm going to get the error code and the error message. So just right here, I'm looking at the Marketo JSON. I'm looking at the errors. I know the errors is a list. The list is always at a 0 index, so 0. And then code and message. So that's what these two variables are doing here. And I'm just going to print that out, which is what we saw here, error of 610 and message of requested resource not found. And the else statement is if there's a warning, I just want to print out what that warning is. So that's something that I'll show you next. So actually, before I do that, I'll just show you with a real endpoint here. So this is a smart campaign. And let me paste it in there. But the smart campaign ID doesn't exist. So we're using the get endpoint here. I'm going to run that. And we'll see here, error of 702, smart campaign not found. So again, it did result in a false success, so that's easy enough to find out. But I want to show you something a little bit quirky, is now if we do the same thing with a landing page, it's actually going to be a success of true, but it's going to come with a warning. So here we'll see this landing page doesn't exist. We'll run that again. And we'll see success is true, but there's a warning that there's no assets found for the given search criteria. So I'm not sure why they have it set up this way, why this doesn't also result in a false success. But for whatever reason, it isn't. So the success is true. That's why we want to look out for the warning too, so that we can know that even though we tried to get this ID, there's nothing there essentially. So now one last time, I'll actually change this to a landing page that does exist. And we'll see now that our success is true. There's no errors. There's no warnings. And we get the rest of our JSON. So this is something really to keep in mind if you're going to be using Python with the Marketo API, because you want to make sure that you don't miss anything as your script runs. So I hope this was helpful.